Oh boy, I'm late. I'm an hour and 25 minutes late, and I am sorry. I slept in, as I do occasionally. I had the best of intentions. I went and laid down on my head, and I was just like, I'm just going to catch up on some Twitter posts and stuff like that, and it was just like, out. I just had to shut down a very important game download in order to live stream right now. Hey, Carlos. Let me just pop out the chat here. Can I pop out the chat? Yes, I can. I've forgotten how to do everything. Like a babe in the woods. Is that what they say? Hey, Nick. How's my audio, everybody? Shit. Knocking stuff over. My desk is completely crammed. Like, I'm not going to move my camera and show you guys everything. But my desk is crammed with tiny furniture and houses and things like that. Like, this here is an example of what I'm talking about. Let me just arrange some trees and things here for you nicely. This is called Tiny Terrain from Crooked Staff Publishing. I'm going to make a video about this fairly soon. There we go. That's a better representation of it. Let's see if I can angle it a little bit for you. Just to give you some idea of the scale. So the doorway there is about 2 millimeters high. So your average miniature for a humanoid in D&D is 28 millimeters or so. Let's get an unpainted miniature from Reaper Miniatures, just to show you. Is that going to sit? Is that going to stand on its own? Yes, maybe. Yes. Okay. Give you some idea of how big a humanoid would be. That's how big your average miniature is compared to the Tiny Terrain. There you go. How cute is that? So the reason why I'm crafting this is twofold. One, the print and paste technique. I invented the print and paste technique. When I started out, and the reason why my channel was originally called The Mighty Glue Stick and why my Discord name is Glue Stick and stuff, is because of print and paste techniques. So what I did was, back in the day, people were using corrugated cardboard, and they were, this was DM Scotty and DMG and various others, using corrugated cardboard. This is before they started using foam core. I've just started using foam core. This is the first foam core I've ever bought, actually. And it's expensive, but it's really, really good. I can see why people use it. And so the backing of it is just foam core. And here in New Zealand, we call this framing backing. So you use this as the backing behind an artwork. You put the artwork and then you put the frame over top of it. Because it doesn't warp, it doesn't absorb moisture and stuff. And that was one of the problems I had with painting cardboard, is that it would warp when I applied any paint to it. And I thought, this sucks. There's got to be a better method. And I thought, oh, my good old handy printer. I'll just print off some maps and stuff, and then I'll cut them and then put cardboard underneath and elevate them, like DM Scotty does with his 2.5D technique. And hey presto, and I didn't realize that nobody else had done that. So yeah, that was a nice innovation. Then I got hold of Joe and Sarah Bilton of Heroic Maps, and they were doing maps for Hero Quest, or not Hero Quest. Yeah, Hero Quest. And Hero Quest is a really, really great board game, and they were making alternate maps for it. So instead of just the traditional board game map, which is pretty basic, you were unlimited, and you could use run-on maps that just went on forever using the Hero Quest system. And I said, what about making D&D maps, and could you thicken the walls up so I can cut them and make some modular terrain? And some of my first videos were me making modular terrain, and that video of me using that technique got put up on their website when they were selling those maps, and that was how a lot of people found out about my YouTube channel. And then through that and crafting other stuff and making not just terrain but also and that was traditional 28mm gridded dungeon terrain. So they gridded and ungridded terrain, and because Scotty uses ungridded, he's a big proponent of not putting grids on your gameplay space because grids are limiting in your actions. So they make you think very mechanically instead of very organically, when really traditional wargamers, they don't have grids on their maps. They just use little sticks and things like that to measure distances. So if you have a weapon range of 120 feet or 60 feet or something, you just mark that out on a piece of cardboard and you can just measure it. Anybody who plays VTT knows what I'm talking about. These days you just have a map thingy that can stretch the distance and measure it for you. You don't really need grids anymore. But yeah, that's, anyway, by the by. And why am I making this stuff? No reason, just I want to. I'm not even going to use it for gaming, probably. I just really love it. I do this for a hobby. I chill out, and like last night I was just making trees all day and all night, just trees, lots of trees. And you do this by just, you can see the bones here on the bottom. It's just a piece of corrugated cardboard with a texture on the outside, and you just stack them, layer them up like that, and you get trees, tiny little trees. They look really effective. Yeah, and the bridge is just two bits of foam core stuck together with the cardboard on the outside, and the house is just like little bits of corrugated cardboard on the inside. And yeah, I use this sort of cardstock paper that you can print off. This is what's left over from me making the tree textures, just cutting it out with a pair of scissors, and it's a 200 GSM card paper that you just print off. But you can use just ordinary normal paper. I just wanted to make these really tough because I was planning on transporting them long distances and stuff. And these, I'm just space saving. I really like the idea of space saving stuff. And if you have a sort of I'm going to make all these modular tiles. They all stick together in different configurations, so you can make infinite amounts of different villages. And there's farms and all this sort of stuff. Like here's the. This is kind of turning into a video about this thing, but I assure you I'm going to make a proper video. This is fences, and this is, I love this. So so you have a field, you know, you can put grain, you can put like miniature tiny weeny little pumpkins and things like that, just like literally make little rolled up balls and paint them yellow or orange. This is like any sort of trellised thing. I've got it's double-sided for wheat and any sort of fruity or leafy vegetable. And you make little fields and have all sorts of different, like you've got little livestock, there's tiny weeny little sheep and things. You can tell I'm just like, I'm in love. I'm giddy over this shit. I love doing this. Hey, thanks, Damien. Thanks for the super chat. Hey, James Bartlett, it has been a while. It does look like Settlers of Catan. That was one of the other things that really appeals to me about it. It's just like people looking at it would go, oh, you're playing Settlers of Catan. What are you doing? Be like, you could make all sorts of board games and stuff like that. Like the possibilities are endless. And the guy who makes the stuff, Chris over in the UK, he's got a Discord server and things. I'll mention that in the video about it as well. I'm going to carry on making Palladium videos for a while. I don't think anybody particularly minds me making the Palladium videos. I'm really enjoying them because Palladium's like my home. That's where I got my start in D&D or in role-playing. Got to stop saying D&D to refer to role-playing. Yeah, so that and the Alien series and some monster mythology ones are going to be popping up soon as well. But the next one that should be coming your way will be an alien video. And yeah, making some terrain stuff at long last, getting back into crafting just because I can, and I'm really enjoying it. But yeah, there's all sorts of stuff there's possibilities. So I'm going to get on Chris's case to make some different types of terrain, like sea coasts. So I can make some wharfs and some more sort of different house varieties for making cities. and maybe some tiny terrain modern for like making little like modern townships with like roads and skate parks and stuff like that for playing supers games, because I thought this would be excellent for playing a supers game, because quite often the ranges in supers games you're using modern weapons and things like that, and it's actually much more suitable to just represent where your characters are with a laser pointer like on a camera and say, okay, here or there. And I just like the idea of having physical terrain to mess around with. And also swamps, and also you could probably do some like subterranean stuff as well if you wanted to do it, like a little sort of hexagon modular cave systems and things. So I might mess around with it myself. Tiny farms, yeah, tiny farms, DB, that's true. Spaceballs, what was that? World of Giants. Oh no, I haven't got my resin printer yet. There was a bit of a kerfuffle with the company that was sending it out to me. They thought they had shipped it out, and then I contacted them and said, where's the tracking number? And they're like, they couldn't find a tracking number, realized they hadn't sent it, and then they sent me a whole new printer apparently. So I might have 2 of them arrive. I might have 1, I don't know. But I should be getting the tracking number update sometime this morning, because nothing really happened over the weekend. So I've got a few deliveries which should be arriving today. One of them is when I got this foam core, I ordered the foam core, I was hoping for a ream of 100 sheets of printable label paper. So what it is basically just a sticky label A4 sheet. So you can print on it and then you can just peel it off. That means I don't have to use the glue stick. I can just stick them directly to the foam core and then cut them to size. This is horribly expensive compared to using corrugated cardboard, and you can just use corrugated cardboard if you want to, but just bear in mind that cardboard does warp and twist and bend, and if you've got interlocking tiles like this way, you can just you can shove a toothpick into the foam core and fix the 2 pieces together with the end of a toothpick. It's so easy. I've also got the hexagon tiles Kickstarter. That's the main thing that I want to try out with the 3D resin printer first, is making this essentially even smaller and even more detailed, and that's with a 3D printer, resin printer, and you'll see that as well, just so I can compare the two. 97 or 98 as you started out with HeroQuest. Yeah, it's a long time. The best thing about HeroQuest is the heroic brew. There's the barbarian. Look at the muscularity. Love that video. Think you're making a little spooky bowl garden for your desk at work again. Yeah, that's a great idea. I'd love to do like a terrarium, live stream terrarium build. That would be awesome. Show you how to make moss and that sort of stuff grow in there. Settlers of Karatua. Nice. Do a stone wizard tower? Yeah, I was thinking about that as well. I could make those just out of Sculpey. I have set up a crafting station next to my desk, blocking a window which I never use, because like I'm a creepy YouTuber that stays in the dark all day. It's got all my paints. So here's my paints. I use predominantly. I just sort of every couple of years I buy the master set of Army Paints. Army Paints has had some updates to their paints range lately. And I'm looking forward to, well, I have no need to buy any Army Painter paints for a while, let's face it. So, Army Painter, if you want to send me over some products to New Zealand, by all means, I'll make a video about it. That's about the only thing I'll make an exception to with people sending me products and me making review things about it is crafting supplies. So if Green Stuff World wants to send me anything, you can always send me Sculpey. I need tons of Sculpey. So this is what I use. My go-to, not that stuff. That's the firm stuff. I use soft Sculpey. Here it is. So this is basically just a heat set plastic putty. You put it in the oven at 150 degrees for 15 minutes. It turns hard. And I then apply green stuff or grey stuff. Here's the green stuff. Where are we? There we go. So normally you'll see this in strips. I have big tubes of this stuff. So you mix this and this together, mix them together, and they harden after a little while. And in the meantime, you can craft very, very fine detail, and you stick that over top of the Sculpey. So you don't have to do all the fine detail with the Sculpey alone. You can actually use the Sculpey as a framework, but you don't have to use solid Sculpey. You can actually have a framework of compressed aluminum foil, and then put the Sculpey on the outside of that, bake it in your little air fryer for a little while, and then so you don't really have to worry too much about the outward appearance of the Sculpey, or how much you bake it and stuff, just as long as it gets rock solid. And then you apply green stuff to the outside to do all the details, and that is how I made this, for instance. That's mostly like green stuff on the outside with a Sculpey core, and then this was actually solid Sculpey, which I wouldn't recommend doing something this solid. That's about as thick as you would want to ever get with Sculpey. Don't generally do that unless it's like hollow or has got a foil inner core. Sculpey and eyeshadow for pigment. You're welcome. That is a brilliant idea. Thank you. Sculpey and eyeshadow for pigment. I never ever thought of that. Huh. That's a great idea. Afternoon, Ryan. What's the latest model you all picked up, AJ? Well, basically, Reaper Miniatures. I always back the Reaper Miniatures Kickstarters, and I have tons and tons of those. I've had, because I've been stuck out here in the countryside, I haven't been around anybody to do any physical role-playing, so I'm absolutely starved of face-to-face role-playing, and I'm kind of sick and tired of doing online role-playing via, I'm not knocking anything like that, but I really appreciate sitting down with people and having a meal and talking shit and then playing role-playing games. I really miss the social aspect of actual face-to-face role-playing games, and that's like, there's no replacement for sitting down face-to-face in a house with an actual person and getting your lives together and playing role-playing games. There's nothing that replaces the physical aspect of being person-to-person in the same place playing role-playing games together. I don't care what you say. That's just my personal opinion, because that's the way I was raised in D&D playing and role-playing. So I really, really miss that. And I'm kind of sick and tired of playing. It's almost like I've been stuck in role-playing lockdown for way too long. I need to get back to playing with actual people. That's partly the reason why I'm planning to move over to Montreal at some stage, is just to get some actual face-to-face games going. Is it talked like a pirate day? No, that's actually in relation. I should probably get to the topic of today's live stream. With the D&D movie getting positive reviews as it's starting to trickle its way into theaters. Remember, it's not going to show up here live until like the 31st or something like that, like a long time from now. So it's going to be out in theaters and things like that well before it is live here in New Zealand, because that's the way that Hollywood does things. It staggers release around the world. So even though it can distribute it electronically to every movie theater in the world instantaneously, so they all have a simultaneous release, that's not the way that they do it. They limit supply to create demand, you see. So the people in the States get to see it first, and everybody else gets to see it second. Well, these days, of course, everybody streams it and pirates it and records it and downloads it well before that happens. So by the time it gets to New Zealand, there's really no reason an unethical person would ever pay to see a movie. We do that because we like the experience of going to movie theaters and watching it on the big screen. That's the reason why we pay to go and see it, not because of it being screened there first. That's not the reason why we go to movie theaters. We go to movie theaters because of the experience of going to a movie theater and supporting our local movie theaters. Now, while the movie is not something that I'm going to be going and watching at these movies, I actually got invited to go to the premiere in Newmarket in Auckland of Honor Amongst Thieves, and I said, I'm sorry, I'm busy that evening cleaning my spa pool or some such, but there's no fucking way that I'm going to go and pay money to go and watch a movie that has got any money trickling back to Hasbro at all, or supporting any of the products that Hasbro is going to be selling alongside the movie. Now, this is the thing. There's a counter argument from a lot of people saying, well, the people who made the movie aren't the ones who are responsible for the OGL saga. Yeah, true, but they've already made their money. They've already been paid. So they're not out of pocket in this one. All the actors have been paid, all the production crew have been paid, everything's paid for already, finances are done. Only the executives and things like that are getting the profits, and you got to ask where those profits go to. Well, that movie is a vehicle for Hasbro to sell toys. That is what Hasbro invested all their money into. Hasbro, of course, owns Wizard of the Coast, or they're tied together inextricably at this point. So if you don't go and watch the movie, and you don't go and buy the toys from Walmart or wherever the hell they're going to be spamming this stuff all over the place, they've already, invested about 50,000 container tankers worth of crude oil into the plastics that they made this shit out of, Nerf guns and all sorts of stuff, like Dungeons and Dragons Nerf guns, Dungeons and Dragons My Little Pony sets, Dungeons and Dragons Barbie, Dungeons and Dragons G.I. Joe, you name it. There's Dungeons and Dragons waffle presses. There's all sorts of crap. There's that horrible giant-sized home foam mimics and stuff like that are broken by the time they even reach game stores. Absolute shit products that they're pumping out, that they've already produced and are sitting in warehouses costing them money right now. There'll be Dungeons and Dragons Happy Meal toys. There'll be Dungeons and Dragons Taco Bell, whatever the hell they sell at Taco Bell's. You name it. So don't go and watch the movie. Don't buy any of the toys and products, and don't give Hasbro any money. It's that simple. Go and pirate the movie, Yara me Hearties, and I say it's ethical to do so as a form of protest. All the artists have already been paid. They're not losing anything. Only Hasbro is. So don't watch the movie at the movie theater. Or go after a few weeks. By the time the box office ticket sales have tanked. I know a fair amount of non-D&D people are going to go and watch the movie anyway, and yeah, but the thing is, you're a consumer. The only power you have is through the power of your wallet. Just don't give Hasbro any money anymore. Let them know that you didn't go and watch the movie. Thank you, Garth. Bowing to you, AJ. Missed the real world too. Yeah, I missed the real world too. Thank you, Garth. So that's what I'm doing, and that's what I'm encouraging people to do. It's your choice, obviously. It's your money. Go and spend it how you want. It's your choice. That is your right to spend your money however you wish on whatever you wish. But if you had any objection to the OGL and what Hasbro tried to do to the community, they tried to backstab all of us, and then they rolled badly. And the only reason why they're apologizing is because they missed, and we turned around and went, "Excuse me," and we cut them off at the knees. We hit them back, and we hit them back hard. So they're scared of us. They're not reconciling. They're just worrying. They're panicking. That's why they're having their creator summit and stuff like that. Did they invite me? Hell no. Did they invite anybody outside of the continental United States or Canada or Mexico? Did they invite anybody from Mexico? I bet not. Did they invite Mr. X from Panama? No. Did they invite me from New Zealand? No. Did they invite anybody from the UK? No. All expenses paid for Americans. But yeah, nobody else. No, Americans and Canadians. Do I blame any of the people who are going to the summit? No, it's not their fault. I'd certainly take the opportunity if I had the chance. What a great golden opportunity to go on international travel. Sure. Would I roast Wizard of the Coast in all my social media afterwards? Absolutely. Maybe that's why they haven't invited me. Maybe because I would turn up and say, hey, by the way, why don't you give me any sort of writing credit for Dark Alliance, for instance? When you bought that company, Took, and you used my ideas in that game, why didn't you give me any writing credits for the giant lore and stuff like that, and the Uthgardt and Renegade Barbarian lore and Goblin language lore and all that sort of stuff that I researched for you? Mike Merles, the idea of what was underneath Kelvin's Catan that I gave you, that you approved. Why don't you give me any writing credit there? Because you're an exploitive company. That's why. That's why I will never work for you, and you know damn well. This company, which, while they're doing this little creator summit, Kumbaya feel-good stuff, has been suing the company that I did my Kickstarter with, that I've been promoting dice sales with, and have been working very happily with me this entire time. D&D WoW. They got sued by Wizard of the Coast for using the words Mindflare, which they trademarked because Wizard of the Coast never bothered to trademark it. They never bothered to own the trademark of the words Mindflare. In fact, they just put it into the Creative Commons, page 97 of the systems reference document that they put into Creative Commons. It's got the word Mindflare. Not only that, but Disney and Mandalorian has just used the word Mindflare for the device that they put one of the characters in. So they don't own the word Mindflare. What they were most concerned about is that impacts their IP of the Baldur's Gate game that they're going to be putting out soon. Yeah. So on the one hand, they're doing this lovely feel-goods thing, and on the other hand, they came after this tiny, weeny little mum and dad Chinese company that I've been working with Mei Mei and her daughter. Like Mei Mei shipped out those Kickstarter mats, those battle mats, from her house. She hired local people from her community to do the quality control and shipping and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, so it was grassroots, man. It wasn't some big company. That's like a little dice manufacturer that's trying to get into the American market any way it can through Big Brother on both sides, political spectrums, shutting down all communication between the two countries. But she's just trying to do business, you know, and I help her in whatever capacity I can because I'm neutral over here in New Zealand, you know. I'm not all anti-CCP and all that sort of stuff. I don't see the ghosts of the Cold War everywhere. No, it's just people that I deal with, and they had to deal with Wizards of the Coast. No communication with them whatsoever. They just came at them with lawyers, and it was going to cost them $30,000 just to hire a trademark lawyer to defend the case in the States, because that's the sort of reputation that Hasbro has got for their. So no Chinese lawyers would touch it. None of them. She contacted the official government department, and they just gave her some addresses of some professors who could talk to her about trademark law, but they didn't give her any like legal fees or anything like that to defend themselves. No. Even though it would have been a perfect test case of, okay, so you blame the CCP for like TikTok and all that sort of stuff. Fair enough. Even though there's no evidence to actually link the two, like the company that does that and the Chinese government, there's no provable links to show that they're using any of this data. In fact, they didn't mention Tencent, the one who's behind all of the communications and stuff like that over in China. Tencent is the one you should be worrying about, not the CCP. And Tencent is just a little company, you know. But the thing is, the exact same is true from the American side of things too. You have evil corporations which are stealing people's information and harassing and suppressing companies, and there's a perfect case in point of exactly what Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast have been doing this entire time. Any sort of competition, they just come at them with lawyers and shut them down. So even though that D&D WoW's got like a few $1,000s invested in these dice sets, they're just going to sell off as many as they can, as quickly as they can, and then drop the line entirely. They're going to change their name from D&D WoW to some other name and get themselves out of Dungeons & Dragons entirely, because this is an entirely hostile thing that they've never encountered before. Just like they had every right to trademark that name because nobody had trademarked it. So, and there's no defense for like what Wizards of the Coast is doing anyway, but they don't have to defend themselves. Because all they need to do, that gets to the point in the trial where it goes, okay, we're going to trademark, we're going to dispute the legitimacy of you owning this trademark. So you're going to have to defend it. If you don't defend it, that means you've abandoned the trademark. Yeah, but it costs $30,000 to even defend yourself. So they're coming at you with like, do you have $30,000? If you don't, you're going to have to drop that product line. Sorry, because we've got lawyers and we're coming after you. Then if you do actually spend the $38,000, now they go, the second tactic is, okay, we have to prove, Wizards of the Coast, that it's actually causing you financial loss. It's impacting your profits. That's when they bring in their lawyers and they just they gerrymander out the entire legal process for months and months and months, as they just bring out all this paperwork and all this crap, all this accounting and stuff like that means nothing, that has nothing to do with the actual thing. So they're not intending to win, they're just intending to run your company dry as they lose. And it gets to the point by the time that they lose the case and they have to pay back your legal fees, you're already out of business and have been completely dissolved as a company. So they don't even, then they'll do another legal case injunction saying, well, there's no legal entity business left to pay the money to, so we're not going to do it. More legal fees, more legal nonsense. So they use the law like a thug mugging you in an alleyway at night. It's not an ethical thing that they're doing. They're not using the law to legally defend themselves. They're using the law to basically use, like a mafia boss uses its thugs to enforce their control racket. That is what they do. That's the company that's trying to reconcile itself with creators right now. Don't support them. They are evil pieces of shit. Pretty plain and simple. Come at me, Hasbro. Hey there, everybody. Yeah, Mindflare can be traced back to H.P. Lovecraft. In fact, even on the packaging of the dice, which I've got somewhere around in a shelf behind me, it says, for Call of Cthulhu, Dungeons & Dragons, and other tabletop role-playing games. It's never mentioned specifically for Dungeons & Dragons. In fact, they even use on the website Mindflare to refer to something as mind-blowing, eye-peeling, amazing, because they're Chinese. They don't understand what Mindflare means. The other word for Mindflare, like if you think Mindflare, it's a mind flare. It's amazing. It's a mind flare. That's the interpretation they had. I'm like, no, it doesn't mean that. It means stuff as well. But yeah, so they're like, oh, we don't care. We don't need this IP. We don't care. There's other games to support than Dungeons and Dragons. It's just the largest market. But if the market is protected by this big bully, yeah, we understand big bullies in China very well. Thank you very much, and we know how to deal with them. You just drop it and go sideways. So if the Chinese government is saying, or any dice that come through the export thingy, it could be for gambling, and gambling is illegal in China, so we're going to destroy any dice that come through here, even though the polyhedral dice have got nothing to do with gambling. You know what the manufacturers do? They mark them as table ornaments. That's what they do. So they're used to working around draconian laws. Roast was the coast. It's a haiku. Yeah. So the silicone play mats, the battle mats, I've had a lot of feedback lately from people who have been using them for over a year or so now, and the proof is in the pudding, as they say. They are damn near indestructible, and people have been putting them through the wash and been using them for damn near everything. They use them as crafting surfaces and stuff. They're fantastic for a base for a 3D resin printer, by the way, because you just take anybody who uses slap mats knows what I'm talking about. Silicon rubber is damn near indestructible, and so if you get resin poured all over it, you just take it outside, wait for it to solidify up in the sun, and then it just peels straight off. Paint, glue, all sorts of stuff apart from super glue, all sorts of paints, glues, epoxy putty or epoxy glue just peels straight off it. Any sort of paint peels right off it. Any sort of marker pen, permanent marker, wet dry erase, grease pens. You name it, just peels, it just wipes off. And unless you cut it, or even setting it on fire doesn't really work, because it's about heat resistant to up to like 300 or 400 degrees quite easily. You can bake a pizza on it. You know, it's exactly the same as silicone bakeware. And it works perfectly. Rolls flat every time after you can scrunch it up and undo it. So I'm thinking about running another Kickstarter, and just for another print run of the most popular one, which is just the plain white ones and the plain gridded ones. Probably won't do the hex square one again, or the double-sided one again. Just use the molds for the squares and for the just blank sheets. The translucent ones, the transparent ones, didn't really work out as well as I expected either, and we won't be doing the glow-in-the-dark ones as well. But if we do another Kickstarter run, it will just be so that everybody can either buy some more sets to give it to their friends because they know how damn good they are, or just everybody send in your testimony of how good the products are. Send me some photos of you using your product and I'll give you a discount on the Kickstarter. How's that sound? Pre-existing backers. And of course, nowadays, COVID is over. The shipping sort of scene has gotten almost back to normal. The prices are still very high, but at least they're a known quantity, because when the Kickstarter ended and came to fulfillment, the shipping prices rose by 300%. So it was kind of expensive to get everything shipped out to everybody, and we didn't really make any money out of it, but we still got all the products out to everybody. This time I'd like to actually make some money from it. It would be nice, because they are the best products in the world, hands down. You have nothing to lose but your chains. Yeah, exactly, Stanchskate. Thanks for being a Bronze Dragon member for 40 months, dude. 40 months. That's from the start, pretty much. Thanks, Gino. Canadian $5.50 Gino 1987. What did you think of the D&D movie that came out in 2000 when you first saw it, and the Blue Lipstick Man? Oh, it was absolutely fucking dreadful. And it's exactly the same formula. In that case, the bad guy was Jeremy Irons, right? Who plays a really good bad guy, but he was like legitimately bad guy from the very start. The third Dungeons and Dragons movie is actually the best one out of the franchise, if you ask me, but it's still fucking dreadful. This one, it's got Jeremy Irons. It's got a lot of money behind it. It's got some really good actors in it, actually. And sorry, it doesn't have Jeremy Irons. It's got, what's his name? Chris Pines and the lady from I've forgotten her name. She's also very good. It's got Michelle Rodriguez. She was also very good. So I've got nothing against the actors or anything like that in the movie, honestly. Production value is probably fine, but it's got Hugh Grant in it. And Hugh Grant, I don't know if you've noticed, but every single time he sort of gets off camera and starts talking about gaming conventions and stuff, he loathes us. He loathes us. He's almost like Wizards of the Coast inserting themselves in there. It's like he'll show up to the convention if he has to. Wizards of the Coast has never supported the gaming community. Never. They've never shown up to anything that's not like a toy convention. They've never shown up at Gen Con or anything like that. They never make an appearance because they don't give a shit about role players or card game players in person. Like, they'll have organized their own events, but as far as they're concerned, they're like, meh, I'm not going to touch Gen Con. And blah. Those filthy, I'm not going to turn up there and get nerd crud all over me. Hugh Grant's a perfect example. This guy, let's not forget that he got arrested for like hooking up with Divine Brown and got totally embarrassed that way. Redeemed himself. He should be cancelled for sure, probably. He's probably done all sorts of horrific stuff that we've never heard about. And he loathes role players and he loathed doing the whole press circuit thing. And yeah, and also they've given away the plot of the movie in like the character sheet for his character that came out. Like, you get a bonus for betraying your party or whatever. It's like, it's clear what he's going to be. He's going to be the villain of the piece, you know. Clearly. He's typecast that way as being a sniveling bastard because that's what he is. So there's another reason why I won't go and support that movie. I don't want to go and pay any money to a movie that Hugh Grant's in, honestly. He's a scumbag. Can they make a good D&D movie, Morgan? That is a very good question. Yes, I think we probably can. Like, if I got hold of Peter Jackson, do you think we could make a good movie, D&D movie together? I think we could. Do you think I could get Weta Workshop behind me and write a good movie? If I didn't have to go through some American corporation, you bet I could make the best goddamn D&D movie you've ever heard of in your life. Go and watch my last live stream with the OKSDM and all the shorts clip that I put up of when I was describing my off-the-cuff origin story of all beholders due to a magical mishap of a party of pixies who disrupted a wizard's attempt to merge the Feywild with the real world and what happened to that wizard. Yes, I could make a good plot for a D&D movie. But would I? Nah. I'd probably like go and team up with Kevin Simbeta and the Palladium Books guys and make a Riffs movie on a budget and make it really, really good job of it. We'll get the guy who did the animation for Hearties and who's now like probably maybe working for Games Workshop, maybe not, we don't know. Hearties, if you've never heard of it, is this fan project that this guy did for Warhammer Space Marines, right? And it is the best animation you will ever see in your goddamn life. It was absolutely amazing. He did 6 segments of this of the Hearties animation, and nobody could believe that he was just like doing this at home. It's absolutely phenomenal, and it's perfect. And then he basically got bought out by Games Workshop, and everybody's like, okay, they're either going to fund this and it's going to take a few years and something's going to happen and this is going to turn into a full-on production and be the best like Warhammer movie ever, or they're going to basically put a lid on it and suppress it, and we're never going to hear from this guy again. And nobody's heard from anything about it since then. But I'm hoping that he's doing it. I really am. But yeah, could you imagine if I teamed up with that guy and a few other, and Weta Workshop and a few others, and made a D&D movie that would just absolutely blow people's minds? Like, literally take them to a tour around all the different planes of existence. on some basically. Let's say we did the Rod of Seven Parts adventure as a D&D movie, like actually go old school classic. And of course, part of the Rod of Seven Parts is my forte, which is deep in cosmic lore of Dungeons and Dragons. But, no, they won't touch that with a 10-foot barge pole, and I'll never do that. Pitch my Riffs movie. I'd basically just tell the story of the apocalypse and essentially the coming of Riffs Earth as an animated adventure. Why not? Vox Machina style. Just anything, really, to get the word out. Thanks, DB, by the way. Hey, Morgan, thank you. What would the stats for a Dyson Sphere be? Off the charts. Depends on what sort of a Dyson Sphere you're talking about. If you're going really realistic, that would probably be the interlocking spheres model of Dyson Sphere. So essentially, you just orbit tons and tons of planets around a star. Is actually the one of the most likely ways that you would build a Dyson Sphere. So essentially, you have all of the planets orbiting around the star in just like that, just completely surrounding the star and just orbiting around it, and like interlocking, overlapping orbits around each other, so that no light from the star gets out past those planets. It's completely occluded by all of those planets, and the planets just basically beam energy to themselves via like microwave towers and stuff like that. They'd be so close to each other that they'd be like moons of each other, moons of the star, apparently, approximately. And you just control the planet's rotation so that most of the people are living away from the star's direct output. That sort of thing. A Dyson swarm. Yeah, exactly, Zachary. Maybe Henry Cavill hired him for his 40k show. Maybe. Wouldn't that be beautiful? Not PG rated or a funny movie. Well, I think, Riffs doesn't necessarily have to be funny, but I could certainly make a funny Riffs movie, but it doesn't have to be. A Riffs film, yeah. That's exactly right. What would Demogorgon do with the Rod of Seven Parts? Shit, that's a good question. Thank you, Morgan. What would Demogorgon do with the Rod of Seven Parts? Well, first of all, the rod is broken and it got corrupted. The reason why it teleports randomly all over the place is because it got shoved into the body of Mishka, the wolf spider, who is a engineered Tanari demon of extremely high power. So he rivaled Demogorgon in power, really. But he got wiped out. What happened was the Windoots of Aqua, who are essentially genies from the plane of air, constructed the Rod of Seven Parts, or the Rod of Order, and it was basically an object of ultimate law. So wherever this rod went, it fixed law in the area, so everything went lockstep, Modron style. Nobody could deviate from their rightful purpose when the rod was in place. It didn't bother the Windoots of Aqua because they were all lawful as anything. That was before good and evil were kind of axioms of the thing. So it was either law or chaos, and this was ultimate law. And they shoved it into the body of Mishka, the wolf spider, a demon, and it just blasted his power, basically grounded his demonic power, and he was like, ah! And forever wounded by this thing, and it's still kind of embedded in him a little bit. And part of his power bled into the rod and corrupted it and shattered it and made it its parts vanish off into different locations all across, whatever world or parts of the multiverse that you saw fit. And ever since then, people have been trying to put it back together again. But the thing is, as you reassemble the bits of lore, its effect starts to affect you, anybody who's carrying it, and makes you more and more lawful. I've used this at least once or twice in my campaigns. In one particular Rod of Seven Parts campaign, which was very memorable because all of the characters were dishonest with each other and funny things happened. But what would Demogorgon do? Demogorgon is like the Hulk, right? So the more aggressive things become, the more chaotic things become, the more damage and hate and attacks and things like that are leveled against Demogorgon, the stronger he gets. And he's not just one entity, he's two minds in the one body. and they are quite different minds, and they're kind of at war with each other too, and he would like nothing more than to separate himself into two demon lords, but he never has, and we're not entirely sure what would happen if he did. He's actually the first Tanar'ri demon ever created by the Queen of Chaos. The Queen of Chaos was an Oberith demon that she got, much like the Lady of Pain or the Pale Knight. The Queen of Chaos got rid of her original name so that true name magic could no longer affect her. So she essentially did exactly what gods never want to do, which is destroy anything or anyone that remembered who she was. So she's completely anonymous, therefore she can't be targeted by true name magic, summoning circles, any of that sort of stuff, voodoo, you name it. Doesn't work against her because nobody knows who she is. That's one of the reasons why you can never learn who the Lady of Pain is, or you can never see the true form of Pale Knight without going insane, because they are ineffable entities that have made themselves that way on purpose. She created all the Tanar'ri demons out of the original, all of her hate and fear and stuff. Kind of like, metaphor is such a great thing. So think of the Green Lantern franchise, and the rings of power being tied into hope, and the yellow ones are tied into fear. So the green ring of fear is the yellow power of fear is essentially Demogorgon. Demogorgon is the rings of power personified into a demon lord. So he is all the fear of all creatures in the multiverse condensed into one thing. Like Dendar, the night serpent, is all of the nightmares of all people personified as a serpent, a primeval serpent. So Demogorgon is all of the fear of screaming creatures all around the universe, and the more they fear him, the more powerful he becomes. The more you try and attack him, the more powerful he becomes. He just hulks out and gets bigger and bigger. Everything he touches is destroyed. His very touch destroys reality and matter. So his tentacles, if they touch something, just dissolve it like a disintegration beam. And any attacks that you like, he's like the Borg. You can hit him a few times, and then his resistance will just grow until he's feeding on the power that you're firing at him. He's impossible to beat. So, you know, Orcus and Grast and all those guys were sort of interfighting against them amongst each other after Miska got killed, to who became the next like prince of all demons. And then Demogorgon just came from his exile after the Queen of Chaos went whoa and threw him away as not like nothing she could control. So he was the first Tanar'ri. She couldn't control him, and she's like nope, and just threw him away as like, you're not a soldier, you're some sort of vile creation, you're too powerful, you're the essence of the abyss that I pulled out of here. What I need to dial back the dials a bit and make the rest of the Tanar'ri much weaker so that I can control you. And she threw him into the dark depths of the abyss, where he basically just slunk around and fed on chaos and all that sort of stuff, and just got big and powerful and powerful. And then when all the demon lords were fighting against each other, he just rolled back in and went, yo, what's up? And just devastated anybody who stood before him. And it was just like, oh, there's the throne. Here I am. And everybody was like, yup. Yup, okay, fine. So whenever he's around, he's in charge. Much like Tiamat and the plane of Avernus. Whenever Tiamat shows up, she's the Lord of Avernus. But when she goes away, yeah, the other people come out and play. Exactly. So what would he do with the Rod of Seven Parts? Probably stay away from it, or he wouldn't make physical contact with it, that's for sure. It's still extremely powerful. You believe Disney has Riffs movie rights? I don't know. I'd have to confirm that myself, Snatchgate. I mean, I could probably call up Kevin Simbeta and have a chat with him on the phone if I wanted to. He'd probably only too happy that I'm making videos about Riffs. You need a super material to make a solid Dyson Sphere, like like Ringworld and stuff like that. As far as we know, using the material science as far as we know it, using material like the elemental table as far as we know exists, it would be impossible to make a Dyson Sphere. It would be it's super engineering. We're talking like planetary cosmic scale engineering, Kardashev 2 to 3 scale engineering. Well, Kardashev 1, solid Kardashev 1, possibly Kardashev 2 scale engineering. I might talk about it in the AJ's Guide to Extraterrestrial series. Seems like a good topic for a video. Yeah, Thanos, Hulk, and Chuck Norris walk into a bar. I could make a Super Atomic movie. Sure. But I'd probably make a Godforged movie. Why not? Hey, William. Yeah, it did make a really good Star Trek The Next Generation episode. Were those full-on Dyson Spheres? They were basically just constructed around a fusion source, weren't they, instead of around an actual star? Have I ever played Traveller? Yeah, man. I played Traveller back when it was, I played original Traveller long ago. The little black books, as we called them. Ob versus Demogorgon. Yeah, so the Queen of Chaos plunged, basically attacked Ob. She attacked the Abyss. So the Abyss was originally a Obelix demon. Obelix? Oberith demon. According to old D&D lore. What's that, Sketchcode? A creation of the collection would make an awesome, depressing movie. Oh, Coalition. Right. Yeah, maybe. Well, a lot of people play Riffs so that... so Riffs Earth, for those of you who are not familiar, go and watch some of my videos on it and catch up. So Riffs Earth is a post-apocalyptic setting, and it merges science fiction and supernatural stuff, mythos and stuff. So it's like Stranger Things taken to the logical extreme, where the underworld. So there's these portals to, like, there's a rift in the movie. There's a rift to an alternate dimension, a parallel dimension to Earth, which is sort of they call it the upside down. And in that parallel dimension, there's psychic powers and things like that. And it has a transformative sort of organic nature to it. So it's very abyssy when you think about it. But it actually mirrors up very well with rifts. And imagine there's infinite amounts in parallel dimensions that you can create rifts to. And imagine that ley lines and feng shui and all that sort of stuff is real. Dowsing rods are real, right? And imagine if you got that dowsing rod power that you were like feeling the sensing the stuff underneath the earth, or ley lines going crisscrossing across the landscape, Stonehenge and places, traditional sites where megalithic structures were built by ancient peoples. The reason why they have them set up so that it can tell you what time and date the moon is going to align over certain, or the planet's going to go over this, is because when the moon aligns, that's when the magical energy is the maximum. That's why there's always during the solar eclipse, the wizard's power is massive. This is a trope that we're all used to in fantasy. Rifts just take it to the logical extreme and says, what would happen if you got a future date on Earth? There was some sort of a limited nuclear exchange, maybe, at the same time that there's and so you got all these people die like a human sacrifice sort of thing. Like, why do they kill people? Why do cultists kill animals and things like that during their rituals? It's because it releases some sort of power that the other forces feed on to create the magical effect, right? So all of these ideas are tropes in mythology and the supernatural and paganism and stuff like that are all tied into the Rift's magic theory. Like the Palladium Book's idea of magic is much more grounded in the real world and mythos and stuff that you're used to in popular media and in actual pagan thoughts and beliefs and stuff. That's one of the reasons why they so strongly emphasize at the start of their books, we don't believe that this stuff is real. This is not a magic instruction manual. This is just a role-playing game. It's like, yeah, because they were producing games and stuff during the Satanic Panic back in the day. Anyway, they didn't get targeted like Dungeons & Dragons did, thankfully. But yeah, if they got hold of some Palladium books, it's much closer to real paganism and stuff. Anyway, so the idea is that all these ley lines burst into full force, and they cause natural disasters like volcanoes going off, tidal waves, huge cyclones and things. People panicked. There was limited nuclear exchange, wars as refugees and stuff. It was just absolute chaos. Chaos Earth ensued. And during this chaos, interdimensional portals were opening up naturally, randomly, all over the place. Stonehenge bursts into a huge supernatural portal. Atlantis returns from another dimensional realm and re-emerges and floods most coastal areas of the world. Absolute mayhem. Other dimensional creatures and, insectoid invaders from Planet X, parallel dimensional versions of people from our own Earth show up, and the Earth becomes a multi-dimensional hub, a network planet that's newly discovered, and all of these movers and shakers, interdimensional merchants like the Naruni and the Splugorth and various others arrive to do business on the new trade hub, a lawless frontier where they can do their business without Prometheans and others like breathing down their necks, this backwater. And in the midst of all this, the most technological hub, which is Chi-Town which is a super archaeology fortress city in America, manages to withstand most of this sort of stuff and has a large human population with a good technological manufacturing base. And they say, well, we've got to fight back and reclaim the Earth for humanity. And humanity is an endangered species. Like the human presence in Riffs America is just a strip of human dominated lands that are still like rife with all sorts of nasty stuff wandering around, but the rest of it, like Mexico, is ruled by vampires from vampire intelligences actually coming to Earth and creating massive armies of vampires who control the entire population. The entire population is, it's fantastic, we love it. They provide us like with farms and food and entertainment and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, sure, every now and then some of us go missing, but it's the price you pay. Taxes. Because they're all brainwashed from the vampires, raising them as cattle. It's a fantastic world setting. Yeah, and the coalition states is basically the last remnants of American culture and humanity gone sort of like totalitarian because they have to militarize everything to protect themselves. And you quite often start out as coalition soldiers who are out on patrol and stuff, doing their part, Starship Troopers, right, against, the alien dimensional menace that's invading everywhere. And then you're like, this is actually a community of like really peaceful people. They just happen to be from another dimension who got stranded here. It's not their fault. But according to the CS bylaws, we have to shoot you all through the head. Sorry. And they're like, I'm not very comfortable with this evil empire shit. It's like, are we the bad guys? And they go a bit native, they go a bit rogue. And then, there's the enforcers, there's their commanders and stuff like that are like, why didn't you lob that mini missile into the thatch houses over there? And it's just like, no, I'm not going to do that, sir. They didn't do anything wrong. They're not attacking humanity. They're actually trying to work with us. It's just like, no, that's against policy. The only good bug is a dead bug, and the Zytikix aliens are that scenario. So imagine the Klendathu aliens, insects, have invaded Earth and now manifest them. Now have huge hive networks across the border between America and Canada. That's real on Riffs Earth. So yeah, you do go on bug hunts. Is this another bug hunt, sir? Sponsor AJ for a movie, man, that would be next level. No, I think the Mammoth Cave was a hub in World of Darkness. Yeah, I think you're right there. I'm not as familiar with World of Darkness as I should be. Titan AE, yeah, good example. You're autistic and Riffs is one of your special interests. Yeah, the Riffs lore is really deep. Like, it's been around for a long, long time. Palladium Books has been producing content for since 1983 or 82 or something like that. Long time. Oh, yeah, I miss Bill Paxton too. Wake up, Hicks. Hey Vasquez, has anybody ever mistaken you for a man? No. Has anybody mistaken you for one? Oh, that was a classic one. If someone asked to write a short story, thank you, Moonthirst. If someone asked to write a short story, expandable, for an in-house made short film, would you accept? And also, do you believe you should charge dollars or a fixed price or a percentage of the revenue, aka shared month Patreon? Just curious. I don't know. Nobody's actually asked me to do that. I much prefer being in a collaborative role for writing and stuff like that. For me, being creative is part of it. It's the team, really. That's what I really enjoy. I think if you just get a bunch of creatives in a room together and provide them with snacks, nice comfortable space, and like unlimited materials for them to mess around with, you're going to get something beautiful out of it. The more hands-off and supportive you can be of creatives, the better their output is going to be. And just let them do it and have faith that they know what they're doing. The problem with the movie industry and stuff like that is the non-creatives, the financial people, they always overplay their hand. They're always too involved. They're always too nervous about how it's going to impact them. And the problem is that the people that gravitate towards those finance roles quite often are not people that understand the creative role. And they need to just sort of shut up, back off, and stay in their lane. But unfortunately, they don't do that. And Hasbro is a classic example of they don't do that. They don't stay in their lane, and they also have no trust in. They see creatives as a commodity that they exploit every time they get hold of them. So my brief touch with Hasbro was extremely exploitive. It was nasty. I didn't like it. My dad had a health downturn, and I backed out of that project and just quit. Essentially, I said, "Well, I was a contractor anyway." They were paying me by the hour that I was working. I was billing them by the hour that I was working for them. So yeah, I wasn't employed by Took, and I wasn't employed contractually by Wizards of the Coast at all. And I never signed an NDA with Wizards of the Coast. I just signed an NDA with Took. And by the way, I'm never going to sign an NDA again for anything. As far as I'm concerned, that shouldn't be a standard business practice for a creative of any sort. Don't sign NDAs. If they won't even discuss the project unless you've signed an NDA, don't get involved in the project. It's like, am I a partner, or are you trying to suppress? That's not a level of trust. It's not like we're getting into a prenup here, you know. The Thing. Yeah, I just recently was. There was some fiction. That's also now an audiobook. Unfortunately, I haven't got the link on me because I don't have Discord open when I'm running these. But somebody wrote The Thing's perspective. So the alien in the movie The Thing and the prequel movie The Thing, the perspective of that alien during the entire movie is actually the subject of that short story. And it is brilliant. Brilliant. So if you ever get a chance to get a hold of that, yeah, for sure. Hey, VA, nice to see you. I'm doing my part. Yeah, I mean, I heavily use the Starship Troopers. Would you like to know more? That's kind of my catchphrase thingy on like Twitter and stuff. I put a low because I do lore videos. Would you like to know more? How deep would you like to dive into this topic? Like, I am the deepest to dive. Yeah, The Thing's perspective is amazing. Yeah, the original movie, the original short story is Who Goes There? That's right. Well done. Oh, I think it's been about an hour or so. I feel like I've been chatting away. Thank you for all the super chats. They certainly make a big impact, would you believe? Tasty beverage. Yeah, I got a cold cup of coffee from yesterday. And this is some orange and barley concentrate that mixed with water. My diet recently has, because I need to get my iron count up and produce blood cells, apparently. So I've been eating nothing but like steak, pate, oranges, tomatoes, mushrooms, and various other things, and a yogurt and stuff like that, and just like really, really high in iron. So everything that I eat is packed with iron, along with iron supplements. So my iron count must be god-awfully high right now. I hope so. I certainly feel absolutely fantastic because I've been on some medication to reduce my blood pressure. And my blood pressure has been high since I've been a baby. It's just naturally really high. And it just got really out of control. So, yeah, I'm on good meds. I only have to take 1 pill a day, and I'm fantastic. I feel better than I've ever been. The other day, I was walking past a small car, and I was tempted to lift it. Yeah. Super chats are good because New Zealand dollars. Yeah, they all gets converted into New Zealand currency, and it's just really good for my YouTube metrics. Like I was chatting with the old creator partner meeting thingy, and she was saying, yeah, you need to do more live streams. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I really actually enjoy them. I quite enjoy this streaming and interacting with people directly. Vampers. Oh man. If you guys could only have been, if only I could have live streamed what was happening in that clinic where they were trying to get blood out of me. It is so bizarrely hilarious. I wouldn't bleed. I just would not bleed. They put needles in my vein and no blood came out. Just none. And they're like, what the hell's going on? I'm like, I don't know. You're the medical professionals. You figure it out. It was so hilarious. It was like literally they're looking at an alien sitting there on the thing going, yeah, try and get some blood out of me. You can't. So yeah, they will never be able to confirm what my blood count is now because I don't bleed anymore when they attack me. I could be undead. I could be a lich. Who knows? Yeah, I'm definitely not normal. That's for sure. But at least now I know I got hold of a clinic in Tauranga, which is called Epic Health, and they have got the capacity to get genetic tests done. They cost $300 each because it's elective, not state-sponsored like we have over here. It's like the Canadian medical system in New Zealand. Yeah, I'm literally the Wolverine. It's true. I heal. Yeah. You can't see where they stuck. Well, there's this tiny bit of discoloration from where they got the needle and went trying to get a vein because they thought they'd missed the vein, but what they were actually doing was just puncturing it in about 5 or 6 different places and going straight through it. Yeah, they stuck me all over the place. But these basically just heal up like mosquito bites. Like I didn't even bleed. I just like welled over a little bit with some like clear lymph fluid, and that formed a scab, and that was it. It didn't even go red. So yeah, it's like I walk out of the medical clinic just like pulling all the stuff out of me and they just sort of heal up instantly. But so this clinic, $300 a pop, and there's 13 different medical genetic tests for the known varieties of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is the thing I was most interested in, whether I have vascular EDS. And if I have vascular EDS, that means that I cannot get surgery and things like that without them knowing about it because it can cause a lot of damage. So my veins and stuff like that will just blow out if they try and do a blood transfusion. And also, if they try and put regular blood in me, like a blood transfusion, they'd have to remove all of the collagen from it because my body produces its own version of collagen. And if I ingest collagen from any other source, I have an allergic reaction to it because my body doesn't process collagen the same way anybody else does. That's why I can't eat eggs and egg whites, and I occasionally get a reaction from white fish because of the collagen. I'm allergic to the collagen in it. And so the collagen in my body is not the same as yours. That means I can't have kids with a person or anything like that because, yeah, collagen mutation. In my case, it may be that the collagen is actually better than yours, better than anybody else's. So I don't take damage. I don't get bruised or anything like that. So when I get injured, my veins and things like that will just like go unless they get cut. Any form of impact will just bounce off them because my collagen is super elastic and super springy. So it's almost like the opposite of some other forms of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome where you have very thin skin and they bruise extremely easily, and cuts and wounds and stuff just don't heal very quickly. But I seem to be the exact opposite. So it's still the same spectrum, but it's on the other side of things. So that was why I thought it would be interesting if I did get genetic testing, if you could come up with some sort of compound or some sort of genetic thing that I have, some sort of combination that might actually be highly beneficial to the rest of humanity. You know, what if you could make some sort of a serum from my DNA that turns into a spray that you just go and it just heals up and scabs up and closes up your wounds? Wouldn't that be cool? No scarring on my body. Yeah. So that would be awesome. But unfortunately, yeah, no, my con score was like 3 for a while there because my blood pressure was so high that it was actually causing me internal bleeding, and that was what's caused the anemia. And they were very concerned and wanted to find out what the internal bleeding was, and they wanted to stick tubes up every end of me and in every orifice, and I'm just like, no. You can't do anything invasive until you find out what's going on with my DNA. And they're like, our priority as medical professionals is to make sure you're not having a heart attack. And I said, look, my blood pressure is down. I marched here from my house on foot, carrying my backpack with my groceries and 40-degree heat. I'm fine. I'm absolutely fine. So your medical tests don't make any sense when you're looking at me, do you? Do they? And they're like, well, you look very pale. I've always looked pale. So yeah, but enough about that. So yeah, I have all sorts of other problems that I deal with in other ways, but yeah, I'm not going to die of a heart attack anytime soon. Maybe it's just that my heart can't stop. I don't know. Maybe it'll stop tomorrow. I don't know. We all live with uncertainty. Could be an alien. Who knows? Maybe I got replaced at some point. How would you know? Yeah. Why am I pale? I'm white. I'm Norwegian. Yeah. I'm also highly sun resistant. I can walk around in New Zealand sunshine without getting sunburnt at all. I feel it, but it doesn't show up. Like I don't go red or manifest any sort of burning. It could be my use of niacin, actually. I don't know. We'll see. But the bottom line is I'm better at taking care of my health than the medical profession is, particularly in New Zealand at the moment. Post-COVID, the health system all around the world got completely overwhelmed by COVID. Like completely. And our health system got broken by it. So we have like strikes by medical professionals, and we have a severely understaffed medical profession where there's just not enough doctors. And essentially the nurses just run blocking activity. Like you go into the hospital, say you're short of breath, which is a sign of like possibly having a heart attack, and they'll do a rapid COVID test on you because you're short of breath, and that's a symptom of COVID. So you can't even get into the hospital with short of breath unless so it's not very good for 45 plus year old men who like turn up to the hospital gasping for breath. It's like, yeah, you may be having a heart attack, but we're not going to test you for that. We're going to test you for COVID first. It's like, that's wrong. And then once you get in there, they sit you on a chair in a basically an assessment unit, and you sit there I was sitting there for 6.5 hours, and I was just like, fuck this, I feel fine, let's go. And I just left, and they said, oh, you're leaving against medical advice, you have to sign a waiver. I could have walked out of there and said, I'm not signing shit. If I die, it's your fault because your system is broken. By the way, if you leave a hospital because they're not giving you any service, don't sign anything absolving them of their bloody, their lack of service. They charge you money for medical services, so they're like any other business. If they can't deliver service, then don't go back there. Go somewhere else. Stop treating them like they're God's gift to everybody. They're just medical professionals. They're just trained professionals. Just because they deal with bodies doesn't make them saints, doesn't make them holier than thou, doesn't allow them to talk down their nose to you. Sure, I could go off and get trained up in the medical profession. It's not that hard. I just had better things to do. Anyway, on that note, I do actually respect doctors, and I do wish them well, but in New Zealand at the moment, it's a broken profession, and I don't want to have anything to do with them. Especially if they don't understand what I'm actually made from. Like, I really had to fight for that. Yeah, only 10 years worth of study. Graphic design was 5 years of study, by the way. So, yeah. Well, I did work in a genetics lab, so I was let's put it this way. I was a senior lab tech in a genetics laboratory that was earning millions of dollars, isolating DNA from tissue samples and stuff sent into our lab. And I don't have a degree in biology. I never actually finished my degree at university because I disagreed with the university's policies and I left. So I never actually finished my degree. I did 3 years worth of study. I learned all this stuff, and then I carried on my studies online afterwards because I realized that the university system was just basically nepotism, the same sort of entrenched, academia who basically supports itself and doesn't really contribute much, and they mostly exploit the research of their graduate students to earn money, right? And also in New Zealand, they exploit foreign students who come here to learn in an English environment. They charge them twice as much as anybody else. So it's exploitive. And also, they if you have actual cases where, like, there was a lecture that I turned up to, and the lecturer, there was an audience of like 300 people in this lecture, and bear in mind they have to pay for this, right? It's not free education in New Zealand anymore, so they paid to be there. So and then this lecturer was offended by the fact that a lady showed up with a baby in the lecture hall, which is actually against the rules. She had her right, within her rights, the lecturer, to just call up security and get this lady escorted politely out of there, even though, I don't know what the circumstance of that lady bringing that baby into the lecture theatre was, but it was an inappropriate place to bring a baby, right? And it was just against the policy of the thing. But the lecturer decided instead to throw a tantrum and walk out. Now, every single person in that lecture hall had the right as a consumer by law in New Zealand to get a refund for the service that they paid for that they were not provided for. But, see, the entire university is set to run blocking and interference and to silence any sort of... I was on the student council. I'd been elected as the education officer at Waikato University Student Council. I then got in contact with the leader of our group and said, hey, what's the redress for this? How do I get these people a refund for their money? Because that lecturer just walked off. And they're like, you can't. I was like, yeah, I can. It's actually New Zealand law, consumer law. They have a right to this. And they're like, oh no, that won't work. They'll just shut you down. And it was just completely defeatist. And I was like, what are you even here for? We're supposed to be representing students' rights. And it's like, no. And the moment that I tried to contact the vice chancellor and stuff like that at the university, I just got completely shut down. And then Sandy, the guy in charge of the student union, was told to tell me not to send any emails to the vice chancellor. I'm just like, but that's my role as the student union education officer. It's like, why do you have a student union here? Oh, it's basically just the same reason why companies put out surveys, so that they can complain to me and not complain to any of the teachers. So this lecturer got away with it scot-free, and none of those people got compensated for their loss. And there was nothing that I could do about it. I just got shut down. So, yeah, I left the university without getting my degree because, as far as I was concerned, the degree wasn't worth the paper that it was written on, because I had no respect for it. Yeah, this sucks. I'm leaving. Exactly. I don't need this. And then what did I do? I walked out and I got an interview for the job because of somebody that I knew there. And I just proved that I was quite capable of doing the work. And they didn't really bother with me having a degree because, that wasn't part of the lab testing. Yeah, so basically they just recognized that I could do the job. They didn't care whether I had a degree or not. It was like, did you go to university? Oh, yeah, I did like 3 years. Did you get a degree? No. I was like, yeah, that's fine. That's not under our international scientific testing regimen. So it's fine. You're not like in charge of the entire process. You're just one of the lab techs. I'm like, yep. So if you have the capacity, if you have a brain on your shoulders, you don't necessarily need a university degree. Just be good at what you do and be able to learn anything that they put in front of you. I learned the process as quickly as they could feed it to me. Same thing with everything else. Any job that you put in front of me, I will learn how to do. And I will learn how to do it well, and then I will improve on it, because that's what Kiwis do. The supervillain origin story. Essentially, yeah. I mean, the guys that I was working with, Kurt, he collected lab equipment, and he had basically a lab in his home that could do any of the sort of biological testing the old school way. He liked collecting lab glassware. Sam he did all of the Excel spreadsheets and all that sort of stuff for the entire facility, pretty much. If you needed anything done in Excel, Sam was just like, why does nobody bother learning Excel? It's just like, hey man, you're the only one who likes doing Excel. Just go with it. You're indispensable at the business. Everybody could learn Excel, but it's not in your best interest that they do so. At the moment, they can't fire you. Just do the Excel for everybody. He's like, oh, yeah, okay. And yeah, and so on and so on. Everybody had their own like things. And meanwhile, I was doing my YouTube, and then I left the lab to become a full-time YouTuber, and they all thought I was crazy. What was that, Shakes Can? What the hell? Yeah, AJ, give me a school sample. Yeah, I collect spores, molds, and fungus. Print is dead. I am Egon. It's true. Hey, Plank, you just tuned in facts already. Yeah. So yeah, that's a little bit of my history. Spreadsheets are awesome. It's true. These days, of course, I could learn Excel in an afternoon because I get smarter and smarter as time goes on. Again, because I'm a mutant. Anyway, that's it from me. I hope we talked about D&D at least a little bit. But to be honest, it's my channel and I talk about what I want. And I talked about Tiny Terrain. I talked about the Riffs movie and the boycott. The D&D movie and the boycott. I talked about Rifts and my plan to continue making Rifts content. And also the Aliens book and the Aliens content will continue. Don't forget that that is open source for anybody who wants to adapt it to role-playing games. Don't ask me for statistics because I'm not writing for role-playing games in regards to AJ's Guide to Extraterrestrials or AJ's Guide to Monsters and Mythology. It's not role-playing game related. It's just role-playing game adjacent. So, yeah, I will still answer any questions about Dungeons & Dragons history and lore and stuff because I understand that I know a lot about it. So if you have questions like that, put them in the comments of videos, but don't cram up the conversation with like a big string of comments or something like that on the videos because I don't appreciate that. Just ask me something and I'll answer it. But don't give me 15 questions in a row. Just give me one question at a time and I'll answer your question. I'm quite good at that. Yeah. But keep the comments coming, and particularly those videos on like Palladium lore and the Aliens Guide to Extraterrestrials. Ask me specific questions about the aliens that I haven't covered in the video. That will help me improve making more comprehensive videos as time goes on, and I'll get better and better and better and better at making them. And that is going to turn into a book, and that is going to get me into writing. So if you want movies and novels and stuff like that written by me, then support the Aliens Guide, AJ's Guide to Extraterrestrials series. View them, watch them, spread them, get them outside of the role-playing scene and into fiction writing. People who like science fiction novels, people who like cartoons and movies and stuff but have never played a role-playing game in their life, get me mainstream, please. That's what I need, because the role-playing scene is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and my growth is getting slower and slower and slower. I don't want to be a YouTuber influencer because I don't promote anybody's products on my channel. I only promote stuff that I use, that I like. And usually it's from very small companies, and it's never from any company which has ever approached me to promote stuff for them. I don't do promotions on my channel. Yeah, so I'm not an influencer. Don't call me one. I'm a creator. Space Captain AJ, you demand it? Yep. Yeah, nothing would make me happier. Oh, you know who I wish I was? I wish I was Seth MacFarlane, making my own like cartoon series and like making my own Star Trek adjacent series. Oh, wouldn't that be awesome? Starring in your own Star Trek show. God, that guy just rolled natural. He just rolled a crit on his life, didn't he? Honestly. I don't wish I was that guy, but I wish I was like that guy. That would be awesome. Maybe I should get into TV and stuff. Why not? I have done some acting. A little bit. I was on Xenia Warrior Princess, for instance. Just as a monk in the background. But, it's cool. Yeah, the Orville is amazing. It's getting better. Like, the last season of the Orville was just really, really good. Really good. Just like next level good. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to more of that. Hopefully he's been watching The Mandalorian and gets that cool vibe. That'd be cool. It was called the Prince of Thieves. Bruce Campbell was playing the Prince of Thieves character, and it was involving the theft of a gem. And there's a memorable scene where Xena is dunking his head in a barrel of water, and also where she pulled the rug out on, she pulled this rug on some steps that he was walking up, and they flattened out, and he landed on us, and he did a backflip. So that is the episode that I was in. It's actually a couple of episodes. Yeah, I met Bruce Campbell. Well, not met. He was walking by, and I said hi. That was it. I didn't want to bother him, because there was another extra who went up and was like, and he was just like clearly crawling out of his skin to get away from him. And I didn't want to be that guy, in the extras. Actually, we got in trouble for playing hacky sack too loudly on set, because there's a lot of waiting around. But Bruce Campbell is an awesome guy. He's a really nice guy. And Lucy Lawless is also an awesome person. Yeah, but her stunt double is way more attractive, or was. Whew. Wow. My first introduction to Lucy Lawless's stunt double was I was walking down the alleyway, which has got it's the alleyway. All market scenes and all alleyways and all cliffs are the same thing, just filmed from different angles on the one little film set in Henderson in Auckland, or were. And same place that they filmed all the Hercules series as well. Anyway, so I'm on the movie lot, and I'm walking down the little street thingy with the overhanging like buildings and stuff on either side. So they have like the crisscrossing either market pennants and stuff where they have a parade, or it's the if they want to make it all clogged up, they just hang laundry stuff all over the place. So there's there's a wire across the top there that I'm not aware of, and I'm walking down the street, and she is practicing standing on the wire and then doing a flip and landing on the street. No cameras on her or anything like that. She's just doing this for fun. So my introduction to Lucy Lawless's stunt double is I'm walking down the street, and she appears out of the sky and lands in front of me with a burst of sunshine, the most beautiful part Polynesian woman I've ever seen in my entire life. Physically perfect, beautiful, absolutely amazing, shining, radiant personality. Says, "Hi," and then walks off, and I'm just like, every male circuit in my brain just went, blew out instantaneously. Love at first sight. Absolutely amazing human being. Never got to see her again. She's out of nowhere. A goddess appeared in front of me and then just walked off. Said hi, walked off. Oh my God. I can remember every inch of that moment. Yeah, Gogs just dropped out of the sky. It was hilarious. It was like moments in my life that would be in a movie. For sure. That's exactly the way it is. Yeah, God dropped out of the sky, Corey. Yeah, I gotcha. That's a core memory circuit. And AJ, yeah, that's hardwired into AJ's memory. Yeah, for sure. That would be in the AI. All right, on that note, everybody, I'm gonna beam back up into the sky myself. I will catch you the same time, hopefully an hour earlier, next week, exactly the same time. And I'll keep up this regular schedule of live streams until I decide not to. Yeah. Thank you very, very much for the super chats, everybody. They're much, much appreciated. Step 1, be the famous actor. Step 2, hire her as your stunt double. Yeah. Is that all you got for your money? They paid me really well on that film set. It was quite good money, and the catering was next level. Really good food. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, everyone. I'll see you again next week.